नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। इतिपिसो भगवारहं सम्मा संबुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसदम्म सारथि सत्ता देव मनुष्यानां बुद्धो भगवाति। नमो तस्स सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। ये च बुद्धा अतीता च ये च बुद्धा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये बुद्धा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं गण्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं पादपंसो वरुत्तमं। बुद्धेयो कलितो दोषो बुद्धो कमतु तं मम। बुद्धं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। स्वाकातो भगवता धम्मो संदिटीको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको अपनायको पच्छतं वेदितव्यो विन्नुहीति। नमो तस्स नियानिक सदम्मसा। ये च धम्मा अतीता च ये च धम्मा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये धम्मा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं गण्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं धम्मं च त्रिविधुत्तमं। धम्मेयो कलितो दोषो धम्मो कमतु तं मम। धम्मं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसंगो। यदिदं चत्तारि पुरिसयुगानि अट्टपुरिसपुग्गल एषा भगवतो सावकसंगो। आहुनेयो पाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यकेतं लोकस्याति। नमो तस्स अट्ट आर्य पुग्गला महासंगसा। ये च संगा अतीता च ये च संगा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये संगा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं संघो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं संघं च त्रिविधुत्तमं। संज्ञेयो कलितो दोषो संगो कमतु तं मम। संगं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। विपट्टि पटिवाहाय सब्बसम्पत्तिसिद्धिया सब्बदुःखं विनाशाय सब्बभयं विनाशाय सब्बरोगं विनाशाय भवेदीगायुकदायक सब्बलोकं हितत्ताय परित्तङ्कं वनामहे। समन्ता चक्रवालेषु अत्र गच्छन्तु देवता सद्धम्मं मुनिराजस्सा शृण्वन्तु सद्गमोक्तदन्। धम्मस्सवන कालो अयं बदन्ता धम्मस्सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता धम्मस्सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। अविद्या पच्चया संखारा संखारा पच्चया विज्ञानं विज्ञानं पच्चया नामरूपं नामरूप पच्चया सलायतनं सलायतन पच्चया पस्सो पस्स पच्चया वेदना वेदना पच्चया तणः तणः पच्चया उपादान उपादान पच्चया भवो भव पच्चया जाति जाति पच्चया जरा मरण शोक परिदेव दुःखदो मनस्स उपायास संभवन्ति। एवमेतस्य केवलस्य दुःखकन्दस्य समुदयो होति। अविद्यायत्वेव अशेष विराग निरोधा संखार निरोधो संखार निरोधा विज्ञान निरोधो विज्ञान निरोधा नामरूप निरोधो नामरूप निरोधा सलायतन निरोधो सलायतन निरोधा पस्स निरोधो पस्स निरोधा वेदना निरोधो वेदना निरोधा तन्हा निरोधो तन्हा निरोधा उपादान निरोधो उपादान निरोधा भव निरोधा जाति निरोधो जाति निरोधा जरा मरण शोक परिदेव दुःखदो मनस्स उपायास निरुज्यन्ति। एवमेतस्य केवलस्य दुःखकन्दस्य निरोधो होति। अनेक जाति संसारं संदाविस्सन् अनिबिसं गहकारं गवे संतो दुःख जाति पुनः पुनः गहकारक दिट्टोसि पुनः गेहं नकाहसि सब्बाते वासुका भग्गा गहकूटं विसंकटं विसंखारगतं चित्तं कणानं कयमज्जगा भावेत्वा चतुरारक्का अवज्जय्या अनन्तरं महासंवेगवत्तूनि अत्त अत्तीटवीर्यो जाति जरा व्याधि च्युति अपाया अतीता अपत्तकावत्त दुःखं इदानी आहार गवेत्ति दुःखं संवेगवत्तूनि इमानि अत्ता पातो च सायमपि चेव इमं विधिन्यु असेवते सततमत्ता हिताभिलाषी पप्पोति सोति विपुलं हतपारि पंतो सत्तं सुखं मुनिविसित्तमतं सुखेन चाति अपिच्चसायं धम्मो नायं धम्मो महिच्चसा संतुट्टसायं धम्मो न्यायं धम्मो असंतुट्टसा पवित्तिसायं धम्मो नायं धम्मो संगणिका रामसा आर्धवीर्यसामि धम्मो न्यायं धम्मो कुसीतसा उपत्थिता सतिसायं धम्मो न्यायं धम्मो मुत्तुट्टस सतिस्सा समाहितसायं धम्मो नायं धम्मो असमाहितसा अन्यावन्तस्सायं धम्मो न्यायं धम्मो दुःपन्नस्सा निप्पपञ्चाराममसायं धम्मो निप्पपञ्चरतिनो नायं धम्मो पपञ्चारामस्य पपञ्चरतिनो एतेन सच्चवज्जेन सोतिनो होतु सब्बदा एतेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु नो जयमङ्गलम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन पातु नो रतनत्रयम् नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा सपित्यो विवज्जन्तु सब्बरोगो विनश्यतु माते भवत्वन्तरायो सुखी दीर्घायुको भवतु सब्बमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सब्बदेवता सब्बबुद्धानुभावेन सब्बधम्मानुभावेन सब्बसङ्घानुभावेन सदा स्वस्ति भवन्तु ते इमिना पुण्याकम्मेन मामे बालसमागमो सतं समागमो होतु यावनिब्बानपत्तिया इदं मे पुण्याकम्मं आसवक्षयं वहं भवतु सब्बदुःखापमुच्यतु निब्बानसम्पच्चयो होतु सत् सत् Okay, so this chanting is related to the Dhamma talk. Today's Dhamma talk. How that we will see later. This is about how this suffering starts. How these repeated births and deaths they start. What is the source? What is the origin? That's what is this chanting is all about. And today's topic is also like about the ultimate reality. Citta and Cetasika. Chittas are like chitta means mind. There are different kinds of mind, and Cetasika means the ingredients, the components, the building material, the building blocks, the raw material for making this mind, for making this chitta. So in the ultimate sense, they are talking about this chitta and what is this final product called chitta, and what are the material, the different building material that constitute, that come together, and they make this mind, they make this consciousness. So in the ultimate sense, they talk about this chitta and cetasika. What are the ultimate building material that come together and they make this ultimate chittas, different kinds of chittas. They can be compared to different kinds of buildings. There may be one building which is like made up of, say, bricks, mainly made up of bricks, and other things like cement, glass, wood, plastic, everything are already there. They're also there, but main component is, let us say, your bricks. And another building, the main component is, let us say, stones and other things. Some of them that you see in the first building, the same building material may be there in the second building also. There is one more third building which is made up of wood. Mainly it is made up of wood. The other one, it is mainly made up of glass. But a few more things like plastic or like cement, they're common. They're common for let us say almost all buildings. In the same way, there are different kinds of chittas, different kinds of minds, different kinds of consciousness. And to make this consciousness or the mind, different mental factors, the mental ingredients, mental building blocks, mental raw materials, they come together and they make these minds. That understanding we should have. Why? Why we should have this understanding of this, the minds and the some mental factors. Why we should have this understanding? Just now I was now going through some podcasts, some interviews of some people working with uh, the mental illness, the people with mental health issues, and they were talking about now it has spread to the villages also. Mental health has become a very crucial problem. In addition to other physical amenities that the people are struggling for, now there is one additional burden. The people have to struggle for their mental health also. Like a demon, it has eroded, it has encroached, it has penetrated into the rural masses also, the rural people also. These mental health issues. So when so to handle the physical health, the people are having some awareness about what kind of food will give the proper nutrition to your body, what kind of workout, and you know something about the body. So the say the blood requires for this hemoglobin in the blood, it requires iron. So we should have iron in our foods, in our the vegetables or the foods that we take, or the fruits that we take. In the same way, for the bones, the calcium is required, and milk is required, or some foods like this finger millet, they are required for calcium. That way, some basic knowledge about what the body requires, what component of the body requires, what kind of food, what kind of exercise will build which part of body, which muscles it will build, which system, for different systems like heart, lungs, and for liver, kidney, which is harmful, which we should avoid. Like alcohol is not good for liver, so we should avoid alcohol. So something like that, some basic idea about the body, the different body parts, and the different body, requirements, the different nutrition that is required for the different body parts. So that knowledge will give you some idea about how to deal with these inputs to the body, and how to keep away some inputs which are harmful for these different parts of the body. That knowledge is required. That's what is actually the basic requirement for building the body, for having the physical health, proper physical health. We talk about different kinds of nutritious food, and also we talk about different foods which give us the freshness in the body, like the fresh foods, like they call it as the pranic foods or the raw foods, the foods with a lot of this life force, the jivitendriya, the life force, the foods with the life force, how it gives life, the freshness, the liveliness to the body and to the mind also to some extent. So these things, this basic knowledge about different inputs that we take from outside, and also the different parts about the body which require different kinds of inputs, and also the different exercises that build the different parts of the body. This basic knowledge will help us to take care of the body, the physical health. The same way, if you know the different kinds of minds, how the mind gets corrupted, how the mind gets fixed, how the mind gets trapped in some kind of say compulsive thought processes or obsessive thought processes, what kinds of mental factors they build these kinds of negative minds or positive minds, what kind of Citta-Cetas, there are good Citta-Cetas, bad Citta-Cetas, something like the good food and bad food. good inputs and bad inputs to the body. The same way, there are good inputs and bad inputs to the mind. And those inputs, they may be there inside also. The mental factors, they may be there inside, and many inputs. They're induced by the external, say, external factors also, other minds also. Some negative minds will induce negativity in your mind. Some positive minds will induce positivity in your mind. So, what are these positive things? What are these negative things? What are these positive mental factors, the good mental factors, the wholesome mental factors? What are the negative mental factors, the unwholesome mental factors? They're nothing but the Citta-Cetasika that we are going to discuss. And how these different combination of the mental factors, if the proportion of negative mental factors is more than you come out, or you then your mind will become negative. It will become unwholesome mind. And because of the unwholesome mind, how you end up in unwholesome consequences, results, which is nothing but suffering. Just like a mason or a engineer, civil engineer, a contractor, who knows about the quality of different building blocks, which wood, which stone, which say steel, which plastic, which glass is suitable, which steel can bear so much of load, and also the structural engineers, they know about the quality of the material and say the soil in which they are building that particular building. So all this knowledge about these different building materials, it will make them to build a very say quality building, very quality villa or a bungalow or whatever they are building. In the same way, if you want to build your mind, you should know about the different building blocks that constitute the mind, how to keep away the negative building blocks, how to use the positive, the quality mental factors, which are nothing but the building blocks of the mind. This knowledge is also very, very important. Somehow, again, I don't know, it is ignored by the so-called educationists, the so-called policymakers. So keeping this in the mind, the significance of this, the importance of knowing this constitution, how the mind becomes corrupt, how the mind becomes negative, how the mind becomes purified. What are the raw material, what are the factors that will change the mind from negative to positive. This knowledge should be there in our learning, in our education systems. Because this is core knowledge, because of which only you handle the mental health, thereby physical health also. You handle the mind, to use the mind very efficiently and to achieve whatever you want to achieve in the life. There are factors which will increase your concentration. There are some mental factors. When you bring them together, then your mind will become a focused mind. That knowledge of what are the factors that will make your mind more focused, it's required. Is it not that knowledge? If you don't have that knowledge, then how can you bring in, how can you mobilize those positive mental factors that will increase your focus and thereby what you want to achieve in the life? In the same way, to have a good relation or harmonious relation with the other person, the factors like, say, compassion, loving kindness, appreciation, these different factors they should bring in, they should come together, and you should apply them in your mind. And such a mind with full of these positive feelings, they will create a harmonious relation between you and the other person, and thereby you can achieve whatever you want to achieve as a team. In a team, that kind of harmony is required, and the teamwork only will fetch you the right results. So in that way, understanding the mind, and if you understand, the mind is mind after all, whether it is your mind or others' minds. When you start understanding the mind as a mind, then you can make use of those techniques or those mental factors that create good minds, of those mental factors that create bad minds. And once you start learning how to bring in the good mental factors to create good mind, the same thing you can influence, you can induce for other people's other minds also of other people, and thereby you can derive what you want to derive. Thereby you can achieve what you want to achieve. In that way, understanding the mind is very, very crucial, even for this worldly success, even for happy living in this world. This lot of materialistic aspects are involved in worldly life. So to achieve all those things, to handle all those things, an understanding of the mind and the mental factors, which constitute the different kinds of minds, that knowledge is required. And also for the spiritual growth. People simply talk about, unfortunately, very unfortunate. Even in the spirituality, they have ignored the knowledge of the mind and the mental factors. Even in Buddhism, they have completely ignored. That's why the teachings of Buddha are completely eroded from, and as Ism also it became, it declined and disappeared. And of course, now it's slowly coming up. So when you don't have the knowledge of the mind and the mental factors, then you don't grow spiritually or religiously. You don't grow. You can't grow authoritatively in the world also, in the worldly things also, the materialistic things also. So this knowledge of the mind and the mental factors is very crucial for in all aspects, for deriving mental health, for deriving physical health, to influence, to show your influence, or to say move in the world and to achieve success in the world and worldly things, and also in the spiritual things. If you know the different mental factors that constitute the mind, that develop concentration, that develop stillness, that develop awareness, then you bring in those mental factors. And based on those causes and conditions that you created, by bringing in the right mental factors, just like the construction of buildings I was talking about, you bring in the right quality, right quantity, right proportion of the building blocks or the raw material to build that particular, say, structure, then the structure will be a beautiful structure or a quality structure. If you don't have that knowledge, then you can't build that particular structure. The same way, if you don't know the different mental factors which will create the beautiful minds, the efficient minds, the intelligent minds, then how can you say control the mind, purify the mind, develop the mind, liberate the mind, and thereby you achieve the spiritual, say the spiritual goals? How can you achieve the this spiritual success? So that way, both for the spiritual success and also for this worldly success, the knowledge of the chittas and cetasikas is very crucial. The different kinds of minds which are built, which are, say, brought in, which are designed based on different mental factors, the blocks, different kinds of raw material. When you bring the right raw material, right quality and right quantity, proper proportion, how a superior mind can be built. So if that knowledge you don't have, then definitely you are not learning the right things. So this knowledge will get a lot of importance when the ultimate purpose of life is understood by the people, by the at least wise people of the society who are leading the society, who are leading the people, the teachers or the policymakers. They should know about the purpose of the life, like ultimate liberation. If that is the ultimate goal and ultimate purpose of the life, then everything will fall in place, and everything, like the importance of mind, everybody will understand, because it's all about the liberation is all about the mind. It's in the mind. So when we work for this liberation, then understanding the mind, understanding the ways and means to liberate the mind are crucial. So because of which the knowledge about the mind and the mental factors is crucial. So we should know it, we should learn it. So that importance people generally get it when they are focused on that ultimate objective of life. So such people discover the minds and the mental factors. That's what happened in this discussion, today's discussion, where the Buddhas discovered the minds and the mental factors, and of course, so many other people also that they rediscovered. And at least a few people who are serious about this liberation of the mind, then they start discovering about the mind and the mental factors that constitute the binding of the mind and liberation of the mind. And when they start teaching this to other people, they get some glimpses or some aspects of this, and they start learning about the different factors that are required to build the suitable minds to achieve even the uh, worldly aspects, like say to achieve success in their business, in their profession, in their career, in their social relationships. So in all different aspects that they are looking for. So this knowledge will definitely help those who are not so focused on the ultimate purpose of life, but still they are interested in the worldly aspects of life. For them also, this knowledge, which is designed, rediscovered, told, and explained by the people who have discovered it, that will definitely become of great use. Just like the worldly things, many people, law of gravitation, somebody discovered. So it is utilized by so many people in so many ways. The same way, this the discovery of the different minds and the mental factors will help even the people who are not spiritually oriented, even for those who are worldly and oriented in worldly success, for such people also, it's of great importance. So keeping these things in the mind, so we'll discuss about this topic, chittas and chetasikas. Now coming to this chitta, what is this chitta? Chitta means like chitti, it is derived from the word chitti. Chitti means like to think. And also it has too many other connotations. Chinteti means like which is aware. Vijanati, chinteti, vijanati. Chinteti means like it it investigates or which is aware. The different qualities of the mind, the different functions of the mind, they come under this word chitta itself. This very word chitta, the different to think, to investigate, to be aware, all these things come under this word chitta. But here we have separated chitta and chetasika. And chitta, we are say in this context, we are talking about that which is aware. Actually, without aware, there is no mind at all. So aware is an integral component of all the mental activities. So the basic function of the mind should be aware. So that is what is chitta in this context. It is the prime function of the mind. So that very awareness depends upon the other things of the mind, like the feeling, like the investigation. So everything they bring in, they should come together as factors to make this awareness to happen, to make this chitta to happen. The other chetasikas should come together. And the other aspects of the mind should come together. Those who have gone through our levels, it's easy for them to comprehend this. The things that I used to talk about, awareness meditations, sense awareness. So all these things, they increase this consciousness, this chitta. And for that, the right feelings, the right intentions, the right confidence, the right perceptions, all of them, if they come together, then the chitta becomes a superior chitta. If wrong feelings, if wrong intentions, if wrong confidence or lack of confidence, let us say, or the wrong perceptions, if they come together, then the chitta become an inferior chitta. Just like the wrong components, the wrong building material, if you bring them together and try to build a bungalow, let us say, then the bungalow will not be a good bungalow. With wrong cement, with wrong say sand, or say, with poor quality cement and sand, if you build some road or say some bridge, then it will collapse. The bridge will collapse. The same way with the wrong mental factors, if they come together, then the chitta will be a weak chitta. The consciousness will be very weak. Awareness will be very weak. The consciousness, the alertness is very, very weak. Or if there are some negative factors, if they come together, then the mind will be full of negativities, full of greed, full of hatred, full of jealousy. So in that way, you should understand this Citta-Cetasika relation. Cetasika, Chittas, means like ingredient, the component, the raw material of the Chitta is Cetasika. Just like different vehicles examples also, there are different kinds of vehicles. Let us say only cars. There are hundreds of models in the cars. In some models, maybe, of course, the components, almost there are a few components. In some models, maybe one or two, maybe separate, different. In some other component, a few more, some other model, a few more components may be different. The tires may be of some quality in one model. In some other model, it may be of some superior quality. The gear system maybe in some model may be of poor quality. In some other model, it may be of some better quality. So in that way, again, you can give the example, simile of the cars and the different spare parts that constitute a car. Just like the buildings and the building material, different kinds of buildings, different kinds of building material. The same way, different vehicles and the different spare parts, components that will make the different vehicles. In that way, we can compare this Chitta and Cetasika. So Buddha talks about 89 kinds of chittas. And these 89 kinds of chittas are the different combinations of different permutations and combinations, or different combinations of 52 Cetasikas. Again, coming to the same example, there are, let us say, 89 buildings in your village or in your colony. So all these 89 buildings in your colony or in your street, they are made up of only 52 kinds of building material in different permutations, in different proportions, in different combinations. Or let us say again in your colony there are 89 vehicles, some jeeps, some cars, some tractors, some two-wheelers. But all these 89 vehicles, they are made up of, let us say, 52 kinds of spare parts. In jeeps, maybe the wheels may be a little bigger. In the cars, it may be smaller, and in the two-wheelers, it may be still smaller. In some mopeds. So in that way, there are 89 kinds of vehicles, and all of them are made up of 52 kinds of spare parts. There are 89 kinds of buildings, all of them are made up of 52 kinds of building material. The same way, there are 89 kinds of chittas, the entire existence, not just in the human realm, human plane, among animals, among humans, and below humans. They talk about 4 kinds of beings. One of them is animals. The other 3 are like the demonic beings, or the ghost beings, or the hellish beings, or the animals. So starting from that hellish beings, animals, ghost beings, demonic beings, humans, and again there are some 6 divine realms above the human realm. And even those divine realms and their minds are also made up of only these 52 mental factors. And these animals' minds and these demonic minds are also made up of only 52 mental factors. And again, above this divine realm, there are some Brahmic beings, Brahmic beings. There are Rupa Brahmas, Arupa Brahmas, and their minds are also made up of only from these 52 mental factors. Not all the 52. A combination of maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 mental factors come together and they make the minds of Brahmas, the minds of divine beings, the minds of human beings, the minds of animals, the minds of ghosts, hellish beings. So in that way, there are 4 avacharas. Avacharas means planes of existence. One is this Kamavachara plane, that means people are so sensually attached, sensually corrupted, sensually they are so much, say, overpowered. The sensual desires are very intense, very gross. So that is in the 4 below human beings, like your hellish beings, animals, the ghost beings, and the demonic beings, and the human beings, and above the human beings, 6 divine beings. So all these 11 planes, the 6 divine, 1 human, and the 4 below human. So totals these 11 planes, there the sensual desires are predominant. So such kind of minds where the sensual desire is very much predominant. So those minds or those chittas are called kamavachara chittas. Kama means sensual desire. Avachara means the beings who are floating, who are in those sensual desire planes. There are 11 planes. So there, this sensuality, sensual desire, the raga, the passion, the greed is predominant. So such that is one of the mental factors. Let us say all the brick buildings. Let us say, for example. So there the brick is predominant. So here in this 11 planes, from these hellish beings to the last divine plane, the 11th plane in this Kamavachara. So their minds, they have one kind of, say, characteristic where all these minds in these 11 planes of Kamavachara, they have this sensual desire, this greed is predominant. This raga is predominant. This strong desire, attachment, craving is predominant. So along with that, when the craving is there, automatically other 2 the negative mental factors, that is your dvesha, your hatred, and also your delusion, they also will be there. That's why these 3 major defilements are the mental factors, the greed, hatred, and delusion. They're very strong, very predominant in these 11 planes of existence and the minds of these beings, these 11 states of existence. And the next one is Rupa Vachara. And in this Rupa Vachara, again, the Brahmic beings, there it is very, that if it's very refined, Raga, Dvesha, Moha is very refined. There, instead of that, Alobha, Adosa, that means the opposite. Instead of craving, there is more of generosity. Instead of hatred, there is more of loving kindness. That is that kind of mental factors. Positive mental factors become more predominant. And in Arupavachara, it's much more predominant. The wisdom also becomes a little more predominant. The moha also will reduce. In that way, these different mental factors, they come together and they make these different kinds of minds. And if and with such kind of minds, the bodies also form, and they fit into these different planes of existence, where there is very intense ignorance, intense hatred, intense attachment. Then they become the hellish beings or the animals. Even it's little bit mild, a little bit mild, these things, and the positive things start substituting. And there are so many positive mental factors, so many negative mental factors also that we will see. And if you bring in those positive mental factors more and more, and you work now in this life, let us say, and you change your mental makeup by bringing in more of positive mental factors, and you start producing, start generating the positive minds, the wholesome minds, then of course you may lead a better life, harmonious life in this human life itself. And at the time of death also, if your mind is full of these positive minds based on the positive mental factors, then definitely you will your positive mind at the time of death, it will leave this human body and it will enter into the next realm, the divine realm, let us say, or the Brahmic realm, where there is a very refined body, because the mind is defined, mind is positive, then such a positive mind will take only positive body or a refined body. So this knowledge of what are the positive mental factors, what are the negative mental factors, or by what combination of these things, what kind of human body or the animal body or the divine body or the Brahmic body a person gets, and how to bring in these positive mental factors and substitute the negative mental factors so that we can generate the positive minds. So this knowledge, these insights we will get with the study of this chittas and chetasikas, the minds and the mental factors. Okay. So in that way, these 89 chittas, not all the 89 chittas are there in the uh, human realm or in the animal realm. In the animal realm, let us say maybe some very gross, some very negative, some 30, 40 chittas maybe there. In the human realm, again, let us say some 30, 40 chittas in general. But when you are a meditator, when you are working on the mind, purifying the mind, you can increase it, the positive minds you can increase. That is the beauty of the human realm, human plane. Here you have this knowledge of these chittas, chetasikas, about the mind and the mental factors. And based on this knowledge, you can redesign your minds. You can redesign your mental factors, substitute mental factors, and redesign your minds. And you can experience different kinds of chittas in this very human life itself. And if you maintain a superior mind based on some superior mental factors at the time of death, then you can give up this human body and you can take a superior body, like divine body or the Brahmic body. Or if you still smart enough and develop your mind, you can completely give up these all kinds of mental factors, the negative mental factors, positive mental, everything you can give up, and you can stop generating the minds at all. No mind will be generated at all. That is what is liberation. That is what is nibbana. So that's why even to work for nibbana, this knowledge of chittas and chetasikas is very important, very crucial. Because based on this knowledge, you can design, redesign, annihilate, just give up, and just stop building these minds. And once you stop building these minds, and the building of bodies also will be stopped. And that is what is liberation. That is what is nibbana, or moksha, or mukti, or nirvana. That's why this knowledge of chittas and chetasikas is very crucial. Simply bringing in something like some strong faith and strong blind faith even to achieve the divine life or the Brahmic lives or the liberation. Simply insisting one thing and not giving this knowledge of the mind. This is very bad actually. One wise man, if they would have defined God as the intelligence of this mind and the mental factors, then this world would have been much more smarter, much more happier, much more peaceful, much more say uh, smarter in the worldly life also, much more efficient in all their work, all their functions. Simply they defined the God, the ultimate truth in so many ways and simply messed up the things. They simply made the followers of that particular belief to become more dull, to become more, fanatic, to become more, say, wrong-viewed people, more extremists. Hmm. In that way, so this knowledge only will bring in the right growth in the mind, the spiritual growth, or in the worldly growth. That's why even if you want to say define God, or if you want to make people more ultimate truth oriented, then if you equate God with the ultimate truth, then you equate these chittas and chetasikas, the knowledge of chittas and chetasikas as the ultimate truth, and you can equate with the God. This intelligence, this knowledge of chittas and chetasikas, intelligence of knowing these chittas and chetasikas, if that is defined as the God, and if people were propelled, or if they were motivated to know this knowledge of the so-called God, which is defined as chittas and chetasikas, then the world would have been much more smarter, much more skillful, much more, say, sensible in understanding themselves and also in understanding others. So in that way, this intelligence or this knowledge of chittas and chetasikas is very much crucial, even if you want to promote the other God-centered religions or other religions, other beliefs. All beliefs, this should be an integral part. Then only that belief will become the right belief, that faith will become the right faith. In that way, this knowledge of chittas and chetasikas should be, say, understood, should be highlighted, the importance of it. Now, coming to this 89 chittas, as I told you, these 89 chittas can be classified into these different types based on the chittas, the general chittas in that particular realm, whether it is the hellish realm or the human realm or the divine realm or the Brahmic realm. So in that way, this Kamavachara chittas or the chittas which are confined to the Kamavachara world, the 11 worlds of starting from hellish realm to the last divine realm, and the Rupavachara, the Brahmic realms. There are 16 Brahmic realms. The chittas pertain to these 16 Brahmic realms or your Rupavachara realms, and there are 4 Arupavachara, the Arupa Brahmas. There is no body at all, only the minds are there for these Arupa Brahmas. So now there are 4 realms like that. So they have one specific kind of chittas. And there are something called Lokuttara chittas. Lokuttara means like when you are meditating and when you have start seeing the glimpses of Nibbana, glimpses of emancipation, glimpses of liberation. There are 4 stages again in that Nibbana glimpses. That is Sotapanna, Sagadagami, Anagami, Arahant. As I was telling you in the last week discourse. So when you are into that glimpses of that Nibbana, then the chittas are different. They're called Lokuttara chittas. There are 8 kinds of Lokuttara chittas. When you are experiencing those glimpses of Nibbana, your mind will be in those 8 Lokuttara chittas. When you're experiencing the Arupa jhanas, the deep absorptions, then your mind will be in the Arupavachara chittas. There are 12 Arupavachara chittas, where your mind will be floating, where mind will be experiencing the Arupavachara realms, the bliss and the equanimity or the maturity of the Arupavachara Brahma. And there are 15 Rupavachara. Rupavachara means like the Rupa Brahmas. They will be having very, very delicate, very, very subtle body and of course very developed mind. So you will be experiencing that state when you are meditating, let us say, and when you are going through those Rupavachara chittas. In the same way, there are the divine, very developed Kamavachara chittas. There are 24 Kamavachara chittas. So when your mind is little elevated than the human mind, the human realm's mind, more purified, more elevated, then you will experience these 24 chittas of the divine beings. And then there are 12 very gross chittas, like the animals, like the hellish beings. They are called akusala chittas, very unwholesome chittas. When your mind is full of greed and hatred, you will be experiencing that kind of akusala chittas. That way, total 89 kinds of chittas one can experience based on how much grass, the components, the building material, the chetasikas, the mental factors are. The mental factors are very gross, very unwholesome. Then there are 12. If they are slightly better, then there are 24, like in human and the divine beings. And if they are much more beautiful mental factors, very refined mental factors, then very refined minds you will get. So there are some 15 in the Rupavachara, in the Brahmic realms, Brahmic realm minds. And if you refine your mental factors, more beautiful mental factors, more beautiful building blocks, if you bring in, then you will get the Arupavachara Brahma, Brahmic minds. There are 12. And if you transcend all these things, and if your mind can able to grasp or experience the glimpses of Nibbana, then there are 8 kinds of Lokuttara Chittas. Lokuttara means transcending the lokas, transcending all these lokas. There are totally 31 lokas. The 11 Kamavachara, 4 subhuman, 1 human, 6 divine. These are 11 Kamavachara. Then 16 Rupavachara Brahmic realms. So that means 16 plus 11 is 27. And then 4 Arupavachara. So no body, only minds. That kind of Arupa Brahmas. They dwell in these 4 Arupavachara realms with these Arupavachara minds, with very, very refined mental factors. So totally these are 31 planes of existence. In these 31 planes of existence, these 81 chittas are there. These 81 chittas are there in these 31 planes of existence. And remaining 8 chittas, they are the Lokuttara chittas. So those chittas, they are transcended with that wisdom. Wisdom is a very, very predominant factor in these 8 chittas, where you have transcended all these wholesome, unwholesome, many wholesome, many unwholesome, all unwholesome and many wholesome mental factors, which come together and constitute only these 31 planes of existence that you have transcended, and you started seeing the glimpses of Nibbana. So such chittas, where you have started seeing the glimpses of Nibbana, those chittas are called Lokuttara chittas. They are 8 in number. So in that way, 81 plus 8, total 89 chittas are there in this complete existence. And also in the Nibbana. Nibbana is beyond the existence. That is liberation, ultimate emancipation. That emancipation also, your mind is noting that emancipation. Such kind of minds which are noting the emancipation, there are only 8 kinds. So those minds which are not noting this emancipation, there are 81 kinds. In that way, so total kinds of chittas which can able to note Nibbana, which can't note Nibbana, all of them come together. It will be 89 chittas. And for all these chittas, the Cetasikas, the mental factors, the building blocks, the raw material, there are 52. There are 52 only these 52 mental factors, they come together in different permutations and combinations. In different proportions, they come together. In different numbers, permutations, they come together. And they only constitute these 89 chittas. Okay. Now coming to this, what are these 52 mental factors? And so these 89, some idea you got. And what are these 52 mental factors? So in these 52 mental factors, 7 of them are common. They're called sadharana. Sadharana means they're common, they are universals. They are present in all kinds of chittas, whether it is the chittas of the animals or chittas which are experiencing the nibbana, the great meditator who is becoming Sotapanna or Sagalagami or Arahant who is experiencing nibbana. In his mind also, these 7 mental factors will be there, and in the minds of the hellish beings or in the minds of the animals, the humans, in all the minds, in all the 89 kinds of minds, whether they are lokuttara, they have transcended these 31 planes of existence, or which are grasping, which are experiencing nibbana, or which are very, very grass chittas like the chittas of animals. And of course, in between the divine chittas or Brahmi chitta, all chittas, they will be experiencing 7 mental factors. Those 7 mental factors are like, of course, I need not explain all those things. It will be too much. Maybe separately, we have to deal with these different mental factors. Like there will be a little bit of Vedana, some kind of feeling will be there, a little bit of perception, Sanya will be there, a little bit of Ekagrata, some little bit of concentration will be there, a little bit of Jivitendriya, life force will be there. In all these chittas, a little bit of life force, Jivitendriya, will be there. In that way, the 7 mental factors will be common, they are universal in all the chittas. And there are 6 mental factors. There are 6 mental factors which are like they will be there, not like compulsory. They will be there in all these. They can be there in all these 18 chittas. They are like neutral. They can be like they can be there. They can't be there, but they have that ability to be there in all kinds of chittas. So they are called the Pakinakas particulars. They are 6 in number. Of course, this also you need not think so much, or at this juncture, you need not worry so much about understanding this. There are 7 universals which are common to all, which are 6 particulars, like they are like a joker in your say a game of cards. It can be there with, or it can't be there. It can freely move. At the same time, it need not be there. Whereas the universals are compulsory, they are present in all chittas. Whereas these particulars are pakinakas, or these neutrals, they have that freedom to be there and also not to be there. So then comes 14 immorals and 19 morals, let us say. 14 immorals, 19 morals, or sobanas, or the beautiful ones, or the ugly ones. Immorals are the ugly ones, they are 14. And 19, the building blocks, 19 mental factors are beautiful, are more refined, are more good. They're called morals, and the 14 are immoral. Let us say some poor quality building material, they are the immorals. When we bring them together, then you build a poor quality building. And there are 19 building blocks which are superior, which are more refined, which are more beautiful. So if you bring in those 19 building blocks, then you can build a beautiful building, a quality building. So what are these 14? So these poor quality building blocks or poor quality mental factors, or they are called immorals, unwholesome mental factors. Your delusion, the deluded mind, the moha, shamelessness. There is no moral shame. There's something called in the subconscious, immediately deep inside, if there's some unwholesome activity you want to indulge in, like killing, let us say, or stealing, or let us say, lying. Deep inside, some shame a person will experience to involve in the immoral activities. So such kind of deep inside, maybe you can call it as subconscious, that shame that you experience when you are performing some immoral activity with the immoral mind, that these immoral, say, mental factors, it should be there. Then only you perform immoral actions with the immoral mind. So that shamelessness, if you don't have that moral shame, it's called ahirika. That shamelessness, if your mind is completely corrupted by this shamelessness, then only that mind will become a negative mind, immoral mind, and you indulge in the immoral actions. So that kind of shamelessness to perform the immoral actions, it is called ahirika, moral shamelessness. And next, the negative mental factor, unwholesome mental factor is anuttapa, or the moral fearlessness. The moral fearlessness is conscious. So if I indulge in stealing, then the people will blame me, the society will disrespect me, it will treat me in a very bad way, and the government it will not be happy with me, and the police may catch me. So this kind of fear from the external things, from without, from within, whatever shame you feel, that is what is called ahirika. And anatopa is from without, from external circumstances, the fear that you are going to face, to indulge in the immoral activities. It is called anattapa. It is also a mental factor. Deep inside, it is also there. It is also one of the mental factors, building blocks that will decide the quality of the mind. If that mental factor is very, very predominant, then you don't care and you keep involving in all these immoral actions like stealing or killing or cheating, lying. In all these things you involve when that moral fear is not there. That mental factor of moral fear is not there, but that moral fearlessness is there. That anattapa is there. That is immoral mental factor. That is very much deeper. It's a mental fact. It's ultimate truth. All these chittas and chetasikas are ultimate truths. You can't simply think that, oh, they're all some imaginary things. Simply they have put some stories. No, they're ultimate realities. They are there in your mind as a mental factor. Just like in a building, the cement is there, the sand is there, the stone is there, the brick is there. It is as true as this reality of a building which is made up of the poor quality material or the good quality material. The same way, the mind is also made up of these poor quality building blocks or the mental factors, these 14 immoral mental factors. They are very much there. They are ultimate realities, the mind. That's why they're called Citta-Cetas. It is nothing but the ultimate reality. When you keep on breaking your mind, then you get these 14 unwholesome mental factors. When you keep on breaking your body, dividing and dissecting your body and separating the different components of the body, you will get the different, what you call the molecules, the cells, the molecules, the atoms, and in the spiritual terminology, you keep on observing and dissecting, you get what is called the attakalapas, the groups of eight subatomic say particles, like these four elements as I was talking about. These four elements, they come together, another four elements plus these major four elements, they come together and as a cluster, as a group, as a cluster, they constitute this body. So the eight basic these components of this attakalapas, they constitute this body. The same way, the mind also is constituted by these 89 kinds of arising minds. And again, these minds are the different combinations, permutations and combinations, different proportions of these 52 mental factors. They are also as real as your physicality. This mentality, these chittas and chetasikas come under mentality. And they're also as real as your physicality. That's why they're called ultimate reality. So in that way, understanding these mental factors as ultimate realities, then you develop a lot of firm faith, and then your investigation becomes much more intense, and understanding these mental factors becomes much more clear. So because of that reason, so one should know, yes, there is delusion. This is delusion. Delusion means like not having clarity, not having the clarity of the Four Noble Truths, not having the clarity of the cause and effect, karma, how bad karma leads to bad results, good karma leads to good results, how this, the essence of Four Noble Truths, craving is the cause of suffering, giving is the cause of happiness. If this understanding is not there, then your mind is a deluded mind. This mental factor of delusion is very much there in your mind. It's the ultimate reality. This is as true as any other great physical reality, or much more greater than the physical reality. So if this kind of conviction, if you have, then working on or noting or comprehending and finding out the definition, the characteristic of all these things, it becomes easy. And based on this knowledge, then designing your mind, designing your mental factors, it becomes easy because you develop such a firm conviction and strong faith based on this ultimate reality, the truths, the ultimate truths. So that way, understand the importance of this chitta and cetasika also. In addition to the concepts, the greatness, the importance of this chittas and cetasikas is also equally important. In the same way, there are a few more things like your uddacha, restlessness, why the mind wobbles, why the mind is restless. It's not on one thing. It's jumping. Why it is jumping? What may be the cause? And it's how this mental factor has arisen. What is its opposite? And then you start learning about the sobanas, the wholesome mental factors, to find out its opposites, and you start learning how to develop that particular wholesome mental factor. Just like when you start knowing about the suffering and the cause of suffering, that is craving, and you started knowing about the opposite also, the happiness and the cause of happiness, and you started working on that also, happiness and the cause of happiness. So then automatically suffering and the cause of suffering, they start melting, they start disappearing. Then you end up in more and more happiness. The same way, you start noting about the negative mental factors and how they constitute, how they come up in the mind, and what are the opposites of these negative or the unwholesome mental factors, and how they can be developed in the mind. So that's again a great knowledge, is it not? Because this is very much pertaining to our own mind. And our own mind is the cause of everything. Our mind is the cause, seat of our happiness, our suffering, our liberation, our bondage. Is it not? Our growth or our decline. For everything, when our mind, our mental factors, our minds, our this chittas, consciousness, if they are responsible, then knowing about them is very, very important. If you don't know about them, how can you cultivate them? How can you develop them? How can you change them? Okay. In the same way, the mana, the greed, lobha, or hatred, jealousy, issa, avaris means macharya, possessiveness, uddacha, worrisomeness, remorse, sloth and torpor, your physical laziness, mental laziness, your doubt. Again, the doubt means like again there is no clarity in what is right, what is wrong, the cause and effect. So in that way, if you know these 14 mental factors like your ahirika, anattapa, shamelessness, why I am ignoring that so-called inherent, that moral shame. In one discourse, Buddha says this moral shame, moral fear of say when you are indulging in the unwholesome actions. If you lack it, if you lack that moral shame, moral fear, then it leads to all other problems in the life. You will become immoral, you will become say cruel, you will become say careless about any damn thing. You will not develop this knowledge of cause and effect. Good begets good, bad begets bad. So I should develop my mind. I should make my mind more and more good. I should purify my mind. All these convictions, all this training, all this right knowledge, everything will go away if you don't have this shame and if you don't have this moral fear. If you lack this hiri and uttappa, moral fear and moral shame, and if you have more of this, the unwholesomes like ahirika and anattappa, but moral shamelessness, moral fearlessness of doing involving in the unwholesome things, then everything, all knowledge will go away from your mind, right knowledge, right view, everything will go away. Then you would completely ignore mind development and you lead the life like some animals. In that way, the knowledge of these wholesome mental factors, unwholesome mental factors, and how the different combinations of these things come together, it will make these different kinds of consciousness, different kinds of minds, these different kinds of universal, 7 universal mental factors, along with the greed, along with the hatred, along with the delusion. If they come together, then they become unwholesome consciousness, akusala chittas, and it will take you to the lower realms, like the animals and the hellish beings. And the 7 universals, which are full of the wholesome mental factors, like generosity, like compassion, like loving kindness, that kind of feelings, that kind of mental factors. That will take you to the human realm and the divine realm. And if it is much more refined with, say, concentration, awareness, say, rapture, joy, so such kind of superior mental factors are there. Then, along with the universals, universal mental factors, then that kind of a combination of superior mental factors will lead to the formation of the superior consciousness, Rupavachara chittas or Arupavachara chittas. They will take you to the Brahmic realms and the Arupa Brahma realms, or if it is full of Lokuttara chittas, with the Lokuttara, like full of wisdom mental factor, then you will get liberation also. You will be emancipated also. So this is a beautiful knowledge, the core knowledge for a human being to really take interest and get absorbed and get, say, and start learning and practicing this. This is a core knowledge and the basic knowledge that everybody should develop some interest and keep working on this. Is it not? So, in that way, knowing these ultimate realities of chittas and chetasikas, of course, this is a very big subject. So, on these chittas and chetasikas, there's so many books are there, not just so many chapters. There are so many books. But in summary, I have given the importance of this about the different kinds of chittas based on the different realms. 31 these realms of existence. So in that, the 11 are the kamavachara, where the sense desire is predominant, and 16 are rupavachara, the brahmic realms, the rupa brahmas, where the rupa is subtle, rupa is there, subtle body is there, and arupavachara, where there is no rupa, where there is no body, only mind. Such Brahma states, 4 are there. So there are 12 kinds of chittas in those 4 Arupavachara Brahma states. And when you are experiencing the glimpses of Nibbana, then the 8 kinds of chittas will become predominant. When you are experiencing the Rupa Brahma, the 16 kinds of Rupa Brahma realms, then 15 kinds of chittas are predominant. And when you are experiencing the divine realms, then the 24 kinds of chittas are predominant. When you are experiencing the hellish minds, hellish or these subhuman say realms, those chittas, 12 kinds of unwholesome chittas, akusala chittas will be functioning, and akusala chittas will be predominantly say constituted by akusala chetasikas, unwholesome factors like I was telling you, moha, anattappa, ahirika, shamelessness, moral fearlessness, jealousy, and then possessiveness, hatred. These mental factors have filled, means then you will end up in these 12 unwholesome minds, which will take you to the subhuman births like animals and all. So this is a great intelligence, great knowledge about your own happiness, your own suffering, your own say developed mind, undeveloped mind, where how to develop the mind. Instead of this basic and very important, very useful, very significant knowledge, we are so much interested in learning so many unnecessary things which simply give you some excitement, some ego inflation. That's all. In no way they will take you to real happiness, real progress, real mind development. So keeping these things in the mind, so one should learn these ultimate realities of the mind and matter, ultimate realities of the mind and mental factors. So keeping these things in the mind, I just introduced this concept of chittas and Citta-Cetas, and whenever we get some time, we will discuss these things with a few more details. Okay, I think today this much is enough. So if you have some questions, you can ask, then we'll conclude. Vandami Banteji, eyes, nose, tongue, skin, ears are sensory organs. What is the nature and function of brain? According, there is nothing like brain. So we talk about the mind. Brain is something like in your software technology, you say the software is brain and the hardware is the mind. The brain, it simply analyzes, or it redesigns, restructures. It's already there in the mind. Let us say the brain's function is analytical component of the mind is the brain. That's all. It analyzes and it tries to put the things according to its own whatever view, whatever background it has. And again, that background is in the mind only. In that way, the mind is more significant than the brain. Just like hardware is more important than the software. Of course, some knowledge about software, about the analytical mind is also you will learn when you start learning about the mind. So in that way, the quality, the nature, the objects of mind are, as I was telling you in our meditation courses also, it has the ability to have the awareness of the time. These five senses, they don't have the awareness of the mind. But this mind has the awareness of the time. That is one thing. And the second thing is, like, it is only the mind which can grasp, which can be aware of the purity of the mind. The senses, of course, they can experience the purity of the mind. Like after meditation, when the mind becomes pure, then you see everything looks very bright. The green looks very pure green, or the shining green. The people also look very, very shining, very pure, very fresh. Because this freshness in the mind, the purity in the mind, it is expressed in your senses also, and even the sounds also. You hear the sounds very clearly. Your tastes also become you become very sensitive in noting the tastes also after meditation, because the mind becomes pure. The mind has developed the superior sharpness. So that is expressed in the five senses also. So in that way, the mind consciousness, it has the ability to make note of its own purity. When it is completely corrupted by the defilements like greed, hatred, and delusion, the mind will not be in a position to so it is dominated by the senses. When the mind becomes more and more pure, then the refinedness of the mind is in a position to make note of the purity of the mind itself. That's why you experience the light. So your mind can experience the purity of the mind in the form of light. So that is again is the quality of the mind. Your senses can't experience the purity of the mind, the light of the mind, the light of wisdom, the light of purity. It is only the mind sense can experience the purity of the mind. And when you are practicing chittanupassana meditation, then your mind can experience, can make note of even the Even the negativities of the mind also. Oh, now the mind is full of greed. Oh, the mind is full of hatred. Oh, the mind is full of now confusion. That way, the mind can note these mental factors. When you are practicing, when you have learned this art of noting the mind as mind, again, that kind of noting the different factors of the mind, different the nature of the mind, again, that comes under the domain of the field of the mind sense. That way, the mind sense is actually very, very superior. But these physical senses, many a times, they dominate the mind and they take the front seat. So, because of that, mind takes back seat and it acts as a dummy. But in the meditation, when you're sharpening, when you're sensitizing these physical senses, and when you're transcending these physical senses with the mind sense, by purifying the mind, developing the awareness of the mind, developing the mind sense awareness or the mind consciousness, then these physical senses, they take backseat. And that time you start noting the different dimensions, different abilities of the mind. The mind can start noting not just the length of the breath and not just the time of this moment, of this second, of this physical time. It starts expanding its ability to note. Like it can start noting about the previous lives and the future lives. It can start noting. That is the ability of the mind sense. And it can start noting, it can start noting the space also. The wide range of space also it can start. So in that way, the mind sense has the ability to perceive so many things which are far, far beyond the physical senses. So mainly you can say it can note the mental factors, the mind sense can note the mental factors like the positive mental factors, like your generous mind, your say compassionate mind. The mind can note. That is first level. Second level is, let us say, it can note the purity of mind itself, let us say, in the form of flow, in the form of brightness, delight, and the lightness. And the mind sense can note so many other, say, it can develop the wisdom to such an extent, it can note the glimpses of Nibbana, the glimpses of jhanas. It's only the mind sense that can note, not your physical senses. The people who are stuck with these physical senses, they can't even understand and comprehend the abilities of the mind. Once you start purifying the physical senses and start entering into the mind sense, and start purifying the mind sense, then you start noting its great, the dimensions of the mind sense, and how great it is to note so many dimensions, so many aspects, so many mind objects, like time, millions and millions of eras and lives also the mind can note. That's what the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas and even many meditators, they can able to note their previous lives and all. They can stretch their ability to note in the space also, across the space, what's happening now at this moment. In America, what's happening, in other solar system, in other systems, what's happening, other planes, what's happening. So in that way, the mind sense has very, very unimaginable abilities. The objects of mind sense, one will experience only by developing the mind, and one can comprehend. One, if a person understands about the importance of mind purification and actually involve in that mind purification. Otherwise, simply hearing it will become more confusion. And the people say the example, they give the example. Now, if you want to realize the taste of, say, sugar, you should simply eat it. How many things are explained about the taste of sugar? So that you can't experience the taste of sugar and you can't comprehend what exactly is the taste of sugar. The same way, the abilities of the mind, the objects of the mind, one should experience by developing your mind, purifying your mind, transcending your physical senses. Okay. So then, yes, we can experience all the realms in our, not in our body, in our mind, with by developing the awareness. 31 realms of the mind, they are not the state of mind. The mind should develop, mind should be purified. Then It will experience those states of mind. They are the realities. It's not just some states of mind. They are very much there. Of course, it comes under the domain of mind sense only. Can the beings in Brahma realm connect with other realms? Yes, they can connect, because Brahma realm beings, they have the ability to have very refined minds, and they can definitely penetrate into others' minds, other realms. That is possible. Okay, so that's your questions. And of course, this Buddhist cosmology is very, very interesting again. And this I explain in detail in our courses, higher courses, because it requires a lot of comprehension of this entire mind development or mind purification techniques. And once you reach some amount of mind purification, by practicing so many kinds of meditations for so many components of the mind, then in the higher courses I teach about this Buddhist cosmology, because you should have some practical experience also. Then only you can understand the Buddhist cosmology. That means these 31 planes of existence, the different kinds of minds in these different kinds of existence, and the abilities of these different minds which are there in the different existences. For all these things, some practical backup also should be there. Practically you should have established in this superiority of the mind and the superior abilities of the mind to some extent. If they are established, then understanding the Buddhist cosmology becomes very easy. Okay. Okay, so with that, we'll conclude. Namo tassa bhagavato arhato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te sukhi bhave yang nidduko aham nicca aham viya idacha me sukhi hontu majjata chatavedino imam hi gammante dhamme satta hontu sukhi sada tato param charajjesu chakkavalesu jantano. Sadhu, sadhu. Sukhi hontu mangalam. May all of you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. May all beings also be happy, healthy, and peaceful.